that's already there. Okay. So, Gori, good afternoon.
Good
Happy
afternoon.
to have you on UK and I Have Talks. A question that I have for you, which I think is one of those necessary ones that many people may ask you. What are the challenges the infrastructure finance component is seeking to overcome?
Yeah, UKNIF's infrastructure finance component is really focused on one major problem, and that is facilitating access to early stage and downstream financing. Thinking about that problem, we've been able to categorize the barriers that has led to a situation where even though there is a recognized significant infrastructure deficit and perhaps a number of potential candidate projects that can address that, the resources that are required to deliver that are beyond the available resources to the government. And Nigeria is not unique in this respect. But in terms of the Nigerian situation, there are three key barriers that we're looking at. The first is the institutional and human capacity to actually properly structure and deliver projects. The second is the availability of bankable projects that will be considered by the financing community as attractive, sufficiently de-risked and ready to execute. And the third is essentially ensuring that the projects that are actually implemented are projects that that have a clear development impact. And by that I mean it really has clear indicators that act to reduce poverty, enhance inclusion, particularly ensuring opportunities for women and children, but also do so in such a way that it has a minimal impact on the environment.
Great. So now that you touched upon inclusiveness of infrastructure, so the question is, what do you mean by inclusive infrastructure finance?
When we speak about inclusive infrastructure, I guess what we are really focused on is the sort of thinking that goes into the design, development, and procurement of infrastructure. And in terms of a UKNIF approach, this is a really important element. We are looking at infrastructure that isn't just an opportunity for construction companies to deliver projects. We are looking at ensuring that, for instance, if a road is to be commissioned, we are interested in the sort of grade that is used to commission the road. We're looking at the supply chain to ensure that it incorporates local suppliers, to ensure that the economic opportunity created by the contract, not just the road, is in such a way where opportunities are created for local firms and local people. We're also looking at how women particularly are advantaged by the infrastructure, because we believe that all our projects should have a clear gender impact, particularly around women and children. So when we talk about inclusive infrastructure, we want to do more than just ensure that a road is built or a hospital is built or infrastructure is in place for a farm. We want to make sure that in the design of the contracts, you're looking at smallholder farmers, you are looking at small, medium enterprises being part of the value chain. You're looking at a significant, a credible amount of local content being involved in that transaction. Not just because it's a good to have, but it really makes clear development sense. It enables the buying of the entire community into the project, which goes ahead to actually stop some of the challenges that contractors face in delivering, because they're not able to persuade the local community that it's not just good for them as contractors, but it's also good for society as a whole.
Great, thank you. Now the question of climate then in all of this, when we're dealing with, when we're talking about inclusive infrastructure, when we're talking about the challenge of infrastructure, then the one challenge, the bigger challenge is climate. And I'd like to know, how can infrastructure finance take cognizance of climate considerations?
So in its real sense, infrastructure finance is more than a component. Infrastructure finance is, in simple terms, is essentially how you finance infrastructure. And what we have seen, particularly over the last 18 months, perhaps stretched beyond that over the last 5 years, is a convergence in the financing community to not just make sure that projects aren't just paying lip service to the impact of climate change in the community in which they are being delivered, but there are a key consideration. And whether it's the African Development Bank, the World Bank, the IFC, they are making it absolutely a condition of accessing finance to make sure that there are clear climate adaptation and mitigation considerations incorporated into the design of the project itself. Whether that is a livestock agriculture project, which is a key producer of methane, but there are schemes now, particularly around changing the diet of ruminants that actually reduce the methane emissions, which is a subtle change that can make a difference. And being able to incorporate that into the design and structure of a project may make a difference between being able to access finance and not being able to access finance. And what UKNIF is doing is bringing our wealth of knowledge through our key sector experts to ensure that projects like the HDMI, which we've worked on, in the procurement phase, for instance, we are specific. The HDMI, that's the Highway Development Management Initiative that is being delivered by the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. We are asking bidders to make very clear statements about how they will ensure that their projects incorporate climate adaptation and mitigation measures in the design and delivery of the project. And that's something that we hope would have happened without UKNIF. But because we're here, we don't have to hope any longer. It's being done. And that's what we want to see, more of that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gori. It's really comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll need 10 seconds of silence so I can capture the soundbite.